The first nuclear test was conducted on July 16, 1945, near Alamogordo, New Mexico. Conducted by the United States Army, the operation was nicknamed Trinity, and the bomb used was called Gadget. It was a Y1561 device. Since then, there have been a ton of nuclear experiments, such as setting off nukes in the sea, to setting off nukes in space, and even getting troops to run towards a nuke. Welcome to 5 craziest nuclear experiments.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Operation Hardtack. Operation Hardtack was a series of 35 nuclear tests conducted by the United States in 1958. They were high altitude and underwater tests. The high altitude tests were done at the Nevada testing site, and the underwater tests were done in the Pacific Ocean. The purpose of the underwater test was to improve the understanding of the effects that underwater explosions had on Navy ships and material. 2 bombs were set off underwater. They were called Wahoo and Umbrella. Umbrella was an Mk7 bomb, which was 30 inches in diameter, 54 inches long, and weighed 825 pounds. Wahoo was a very similar bomb. They were detonated close to Eniwetok Atoll, which is a collection of 40 small islands in the Pacific Ocean. The nuke caused a large blast, which caused the water to shoot up several feet into the air. The nuke must have also caused radiation damage to the water and any marine life in the surrounding area. The islands close to the blast site, which has 800 inhabitants, is also affected by radiation, and in 1980, the US built a concrete dome on the island to deposit radioactive soil and debris.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Operation Plowshare. Project Plowshare was a project done by the United States to see if nuclear explosives could be used for peaceful construction purposes, such as creating lakes, bays or canals, and to be used for mining. The nuclear test was called Sudan, and it was conducted at the Nevada testing site. Sudan was a thermonuclear device, and it was placed in a hole 636 foot deep and then detonated. The explosion displaced 12 million tons of earth, creating a crater 1,280 foot wide and 320 foot deep. It is the largest man-made crater in the world. The explosion also caused 2 radioactive dust clouds to form and travel across the US. They both dropped radioactive particles all over the US, but mainly in parts of the Midwest. The test exposed more innocent people to radiation than any other weapons test in American history.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Operation Plumbob. From May 1957 to December 1957, the US military began a series of tests. It included simulating a nuclear battlefield using real nukes to see if they could counter the effects of radiation if troops were ever fighting in a radiated battlefield. It was the biggest, longest, and most controversial test series in the United States. The operation consisted of 29 explosions. The largest bomb was detonated on July 5, 1957. It was nearly 5 times larger in yield than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. A balloon carried the bomb 460 meters into the air, and then it was detonated. As many as 2,000 soldiers were placed dangerously close to the blast. The troops were then ordered to run towards the blast to prepare them for a nuclear battlefield. Many soldiers complied as they were given inaccurate information about radiation. Many of these types of tests were done during Operation Plumbob, and an estimated 38,000 people developed thyroid tumors and 1,900 people died. Also, 1,200 pigs were exposed to extreme amounts of radiation.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Nukes in space. Otherwise known as Starfish Prime, on July 9, 1962, the United States launched a nuke 250 miles into space and then detonated it. A rocket carrying a nuclear warhead was launched from Johnston Island in the Pacific Ocean. Then once it reached 250 miles into space's atmosphere, it was detonated. The test was to see how the explosion would affect radiation belts that follow the Earth's magnetic field to see if they could be manipulated for national defense purposes. The explosion could be seen from Hawaii and New Zealand. It also caused power cuts in Hawaii, which was 800 miles away, due to large electromagnetic pulses. Colourful lights could be seen in the sky, which were caused from radioactive particles coming into contact with oxygen and nitrogen in the Earth's atmosphere. The particles took years to eventually return to normal levels. The explosion caused more radiation belts to surround the Earth, which damaged 3 satellites. In September 1963, a treaty was proposed to ban all use of nukes in space, and it got passed 4 years later. But by this time, 105 nukes had been fired into the upper atmosphere.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Nuking the moon. In 1958, the United States Air Force developed a top-secret plan to detonate a nuke on the moon. They believed it would help answer some mysteries in planetary astronomy. They also believed it would give them a boost in the space race, as the Soviet Union were working on a similar plan which also included nuking the moon. The project was eventually cancelled by the Air Force in January 1959 because they feared they would receive a negative public reaction, and also they feared that if the bomb didn't hit the moon, it might fall back onto the Earth. If it would have been launched, the explosion would have been able to have been seen from Earth with the naked eye. Although it is said to have been cancelled, Dr. Stephen Greer, who is a founder of the Center for Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, claims that the nuke was launched, but it was intercepted by a UFO. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up, and remember to subscribe to keep updated with our latest videos. Goodbye.